All right, guys, welcome to lesson 3 in unit 2. We're going to be talking about slope and similarity today. So in the last lesson, we began to look at equations of proportional relationships. So let's look at exercise number 1. Let a proportional relationship, that's important to note, we're talking about a proportional relationship between x and y exist such that the point 32 lies on its graph. We have this point labeled here. We can actually label it. Let's do that. This is 3, 2. They're telling us 3, 2. Remember, the first number is the x value, second number is the y value. That makes sense. 3 on the x, 2 on the y. 3, 2. Okay, so what they're asking us is, well, first of all, we know that this is a proportional relationship. So let's talk about what we know about proportional relationships. Let's review. We know that if it's a proportional relationship, it has the equation of y equals kx, right? And we know how to find k, and that's by taking a point and substituting in the x value and the y value and solving for k. We also last lesson realized that we can actually simplify this into just this following equation. Actually, let me make it an equation because it's easier to look at. K equals y over x. And this is going to be important today to note because this equation is actually going to dip right into this idea of slope, which is what we're talking about today. So this is really nice to kind of transition from what we were doing last lesson into this lesson. So these two things are the things that we know about proportional relationships, right? Let me make that a little bit bigger so we can see it. Okay, these are the two things we know. So now it's asking us, what is the equation of this relationship? Solve this for the variable y in terms of x. Every time they say that, they're just looking for an equation that says y equals something, right? Now, what is the one unknown that we don't know in this, okay, in order to make this true? They say they want this equation to have a y in it, they want it to have an x in it, but they don't want the k in it, right? They want us to find k. Remember, k is that constant of proportionality, that unit rate, that thing that we that tells us how this relationship is happening, what we multiply to the x's in order to get the y's. So we got to find k in order to get this equation that they want us to get, right? So I'm going to take this new equation that we learned last time, k equals y over x, and I'm going to solve it for k. So basically, I'm going to take these two pieces of information they give us in the problem, and I'm going to substitute them in. Our y value is 2. Our x value is 3. So now I have this fraction here, and this is actually a non-reducible fraction. If I tried that in my calculator, 2 divided by 3, I'm going to get this decimal, which obviously we don't want. If I turn it back into a fraction, I just get this fraction again, right? It can't be reduced any further. So this is actually my k. So now that I know my k, that was super simple and easy, I'm just going to substitute the k in for my equation so that I now have the equation of this relationship. So this is the proportional relationship. I put 2/3 in for k. And now this equation could tell me any other point on this graph, any other point on this line. We know that proportional relationships are lines. This is going to end up being a line, right? So in B, they want you guys to give the values for y for each of the following values of x based on your equation from A and show the substitution. Okay. I'm going to do this middle one together, and then you guys are going to do these ones on your own. This one you should already sort of know, okay? And hint, 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 we talked about this last class. What do we have to have for a y value if our x value is 0? That's what you got to think about. All right, I'm going to do this one together with you guys. So I'm taking my equation, I'm bringing it down here. I'm going to substitute in 6 for x and solve for y. I need to know what y is. So I got my 2/3 for my k. I know I'm multiplying that because remember, it's a multiplication relationship. Proportional relationships are multiplication relationships. We multiply. We take our multiplier, our constant of proportionality, 2/3, and we multiply it by the x in order to get the y, right? So 2/3 times 6, I don't know in my head. I'm going to try that in my calculator. That gives me a 4. Okay, so I know that my y equals 4 in this case. Okay, so I can put a 4 here. And actually, I'm going to graph this point now. So I have a point, and this point is 6, comma 4. I'm going to find that on my graph and graph it. So 6, comma 4, that means I'm going starting from the origin, right? Going 6 to the right because it's positive 6 on the x-axis, then positive 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's my point right there. Not the best. Make sure it's big enough so you can see it so your line doesn't get rid of it. All right, that's a really ugly point, but there it is. I'm going to label it 6, comma 4, and I am done with that one. Okay, so you guys are going to try the rest of these two. All right, make sure you plot those points and make sure they go on this general direction of a line, because remember, proportional relationships are lines. All right, and I'll see you in the next video.